Okay, so day 3. All right, now this time it's irrational zeros, and just like imaginary, they come in conjugate pairs. So you have a plus c, radical b, where a, b, and c are all rational numbers, and b is not a perfect square. Then, so they have if a minus c radical b would also be a 0. It's conjugate. So example, -3 plus 5 radical 2 is a 0, then its conjugate, -3 minus 5 radical 2 is also a 0. And just like your imaginary values, the only way to get rid of the radical is to square it. So let's look at how these are going to go. So let's find the polynomial function of degree 3 with the given zeros. They gave you the 3 zeros. So we have on here -4. So that one is going to be the one that you already know how to get it. And I get my pen ready to begin with. That's going to be the x plus 4. It's these guys. Now remember, they come in conjugate pairs, so you can write it out as x equals 1 plus or minus radical 5. Just like the imaginary. Move this guy over. So you have x minus 1 equals plus or minus radical 5. And the only way to get rid of this is to square them. So x minus 1 squared equals radical 5 squared. And now we do have to expand this. So it's x squared minus 2x plus 1 equals, and the radical cancels the square, you're left with just 5. Subtract 5, and we get x squared minus 2x minus 4 is going to be our other factor. So on this one here, multiply it out. X times x squared gives me x cubed. X times -2x is -2x squared. X times -4, -4x. 4 times x squared gives me 4x squared. 4 times -2x gives me -8x. And 4 times -4 is -16. So we get x cubed plus 2x squared minus 12x minus 16. There's our f of x. Degree 3, just like they said. There you go. Well, by now, hopefully you guys are just magicians when it comes to multiplying these out. Okay, let's try another one. Oh, good. They gave us a fraction this time. -1 and radical 2. So we got to talk about the fraction. This one, hopefully you know, oh, that's just going to be an x plus 1. Let's talk about the 4/5. So you have x equals 4/5. You do have to get rid of the fraction. Multiply both sides by 5. By the way, this is our sideward column. So now you have 5x equals 4, and then subtract 4 from each side. 5x minus 4 is going to be 0. So this one is 5x minus 4. And now let's take care of the radical 2. X equals, remember they come in conjugate pairs, plus or minus 2. Square both of them, and we get x squared equals, oops, I forgot the radical on this guy. X squared equals 2. Subtract 2, and you get x squared minus 2 equals 0, and that is your last one. We've got these. I'm going to go ahead and multiply these two out. So that gives me 5x squared, x times -4, -4x plus 5x gives me a positive 1x, and 1 times 4 is -4. And then bring the x squared minus 2 down. And now we can multiply this out. So x squared times 5x squared gives me 5x to the fourth. X squared times x gives me a positive x cubed. And x squared times negative 4 is negative 4x squared. Now multiply by negative 2, 2 and 5, negative 10 x squared. 2 and 1 gives me negative 2x. And negative 2 and negative 4 gives me positive 8. So this polynomial is f of x equals 5x to the fourth plus x cubed minus 14x squared minus 2x plus 8. The hardest part on these, because this is just consistently done over and over again, should be getting the right factors together. Okay, let's try another one. Okay, this one should have been in with the imaginary ones, and if I caught this earlier, I would have thrown it in there. Go ahead and do it, or not. I guess we'll go ahead and do it. So remember, this is plus or minus. So x equals plus or minus I. So x squared equals I squared. So x squared equals negative 1. Or x squared equals, I just wrote that, x squared plus 1 equals 0. So I have x squared plus 1 as one factor, and the other factor is going to be x minus 3. Multiply them out. F of x equals, I think we'll have some combining terms or something here. X squared times x, x cubed. X squared in 3 is negative 3x squared. 1 times x is x minus 3. And we're done. Nothing else. I gave you a reminder of the stuff that we did in the previous video. And then they gave you the mixture of the two. So x equals negative radical 2, square both sides, x squared equals radical 2 squared, which gives us x squared equals 2. Move it to the other side, we have x squared minus 2. There's our first factor. Now the 4i. X equals 4i. The only way to get rid of it is square it. X squared equals 16i squared. So x squared equals negative 16, because remember I squared equals negative 1. And negative 1 times 16 is negative 16. So hopefully by now you've caught on that all you had to do is get rid of the I squared and change the sign. Add 16 to both sides and you get x squared plus 16. And there's our other factor. File this out. X squared times x squared gives me x to the fourth. That gives me 16x squared. Multiply by negative 2, I get negative 2x squared. And 2 and 16 is 32. So we have x to the fourth plus 14x squared minus 32. And there you guys go. Oops, I forgot my f of x in front. And there you go. So that you can see how it is mixing the two together. All right, just as short of a video. 5 more problems, like I promised, about 5 problems a day. I'm doing this so that you can keep up on the homework without getting too far behind. After this being day 3, if you haven't started any of these, you're way behind and it's going to be very difficult to catch up. Okay, good luck.